You got to defeat your demons. He could really damage my brain. He could damage my legs. You have to get past those fears before you even get in the cage.
You are your environment. That's like one of my main philosophies. If you hang out with 5 dumbasses, you'll be the 6th.
At the end of the day, you get locked in a cage and your job is to go finish somebody.
Of course.
There's no friends in the industry. I don't care what injury you have, what you got going on. It's a part of the game. If you agree to get locked in the cage, that's unfortunate, and it's not right, but there's no moralities in combat sport. Animosity sells and styles make fights. That's what it's all about.
I listened to this guy, Naval Ravikant. One of the best things I've ever heard is specialization is for insects.
Yeah.
I think you live one life, and I think you should do everything that you can in that one life.
Risk for guys like us, to get in there. You lose, all the comments are going to be like, why can you talk about fighting? How are you going to talk about fighting? You suck. If you're prepared to be the man like you're the man right now, you better be prepared to be the heel when nobody wants to be friends with you, nobody wants to like you. Habib is 30-0, 29-0, whatever he was, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Nobody loved him for a very long time. And now everybody appreciates him. Everybody goes back and appreciates the guy. It's a part of it.
What have you learned from interviewing all these fighters?
I'd have to say that they're human. For a while, mixed martial arts was not mainstream media. It was, it was really cool. It was a niche. It was really, depending on who you asked, it was too violent. It was not something that people wanted their kids to do.
Bro, sorry to, cut you off, but when I, before I forget, when I was watching, for some reason, my parents grew up, I grew up watching Fox News because my parents were conservative, and they had all this talk about like it's cockfighting. They even went there.
Yeah.
I felt like I needed to mention that because it stuck with me when UFC was in the rise, like cage fighting. But sorry, go on.
No, you're right, because that's that's how my dad kind of looks at it still to this day. Not to that extent.
Yeah.
But my name gets thrown around the hat all the time to go do some social media type of fighting or some type of influencer fighting. I might not be an influencer or anything like that at the moment, but my name gets thrown in the hat all the time for that, and we joke, we laugh. He knows I train, but he's always against it. He's always like, no, I hate that. Keep your face, keep it pretty. Don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I said it's not worth it.
Man, being from New York too, man. Man,
crazy.
New Yorkers are hard, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
For him to say that as a professional athlete himself, it's pretty crazy.
What'd your dad do?
He was not a major league baseball player, but he was drafted.
Okay.
Baseball.
Cool.
So
Yeah, that's
professional baseball player.
Right.
But long story short, to touch on what you asked. I realized that they're human. While it's not mainstream media, now it kind of is. You're seeing more and more fighters show their personality, and more fighters, show who they really are. They're not just like guys who throw punches and kicks.
Yeah.
But that's really what it kind of meant for me early on, was to show their side of the story and show what they, who they are and what they do outside of the cage and even in the cage, how people train, if people want to learn tips from a fighter that they never thought that they could learn from, but they never get the chance to meet, but they could see it on social media now because we have outlets. So
why do you think fighting got so big, man? What is it about like the fighting aspect? Do you think, obviously it was the help from the media, and kudos to obviously Dana White, maybe the Fertitta brothers, right? But then what is it about the fighting aspect that blew up over the years?
Honestly, it's going to sound really contradicting to the shirt that I'm wearing right now.
Okay.
But honestly, Conor McGregor, I think he was probably 70% of the rise in MMA.
Really? You think so?
Just the way he did it, like it could just almost, like Ilia Topuria right now is like the closest thing we've seen to it.
We were just talking about that.
Where like someone's really telling you what he's going to do, how he's going to do it, and then doing
They're
it.
backing up.
Like it's nearly impossible. Like if you run it back, he could never do those things. Like he could never do 100% of those things again in that order, in that fashion. Like it just wouldn't happen. It's almost physically impossible for him to beat Jose Aldo, the way that he beat him. Like it would just, not that it would never happen again, but you run that back 10 times, not knocking him out in 15 seconds.
Bro,
like
how much of a coincidence?
Mystic Mac was a real thing.
That's a crazy thing.
It was a real thing. So
how much of a coincidence, or you know what I mean? It's because there's a lot of fluff when we say, oh, we vision it, right? Personally, I believe it, as long as you're taking action towards that.
Yeah.
And you can't just say it and lay in bed, you know what I mean, and not do anything. But How much do you think that was a coincidence compared to like he really was like?
I think it was a mixture of both. I think, when you prepare yourself to a level of something that, difficult, a level of that difficulty, and ready to go and ready to do it.
Yeah. What's going on, guys? Just a quick announcement. If you're watching and listening on YouTube, if I can ask you, please hit the like and subscribe button. And also, if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, if you can leave a quick review and hit the follow button, it really helps out to reach to more audiences. And as always, thank you for your love and support. And now back to the show.
Part of him probably always knew that's how it was going to go.
Yeah.
Once, if you really believe in something, you'll eventually, you'll do it a couple times, and if you keep doing it, he got hot, he got on a run, and
for sure,
he never had to defend those belts. He did it the perfect way in his eyes. He went and boxed. He made a bunch of money. He went 10 rounds with the greatest boxer of all time in some people's eyes, not my eyes, but he's 50-0.
Sure.
So, got to give credit where it's due. But, also guys like Nick and Nate Diaz, guys who made the sport exciting, guys who took stands, like Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz it took a lot of shit, excuse my language, for smoking weed.
No, you're good.
They did a lot, they smoked a lot of weed over the years. It was a big no-no. Now it's a walk in the park to smoke weed in MMA. It's recovery. But those guys were blackballed for years. Nick Diaz was robbed of his prime for years, but when you think MMA and the rise of MMA, you think of guys like Nick Diaz, so it kind of sucks in that aspect.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that's also what I think the UFC did really, really well is that NBA, they market their players really well, but not as NFL, not so much.
Yeah.
Right. Or no. Should I say? Yeah. Exactly. So NFL compared to the NBA markets their players like a motherfucker. Like, that's why LeBron James is so global.
Yep.
And Kobe Bryant, they got shoe deals all over China. Like their biggest market, I believe, is China.
Yeah, well, the thing with the NBA is, you could just, all you need to play basketball is you grab a ball and you can find a hoop on any corner. At least, for me, being a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Carmelo Anthony said it in a quote, like, there's a basketball court on every corner in Manhattan.
Sure.
And it's the truth. Like, for me
Rutgers
growing up,
and
I played basketball my whole life. For me
Me
growing up.
Me too. Yeah.
For me growing up, basketball was my favorite sport, in all honesty.
Yep.
So I can relate to that aspect of, marketing the NBA is a little bit easier, I'd have to say. But now the UFC is getting into that aspect because they're going global. The global route, you can market anything, essentially. It's a lot harder to market something just within the States these days when there's so many great things already in the States. You kind of have to branch out.
Yeah.
Like for reference, we went to Baku this weekend, the UFC. I was there for 2 weeks.
Amazing.
The experience of a lifetime. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. It was my first time leaving the country. Great experience.
Oh, really? Leaving the country?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I've went to the Bahamas once.
Yeah.
Doesn't count. I was on a resort. I didn't leave.
It was like a tourist. Yeah. It was a tourist. Yeah, man. So my point is that, you are a brand even though you don't think you're a brand, right?
Yeah.
Like, so say the Nick or the Diaz brothers.
Yeah.
Even before they started fighting, they were smoking weed. That's a brand within itself.
Yeah.
It's just they weren't on camera doing it, but they've, the hard, like from Stockton and smoking weed, and they got this badass attitude, like they're gangsters.
Like
and stuff
now
like
you got
that.
guys like Kevin Holland, who it's so normalized. You think of Kevin Holland as like the new generation Nate Diaz. He'll take a fight anytime, any place. He's always smoking weed. He's doing whatever he can to piss off somebody or make the fans laugh.
Sure.
That's kind of the same aspect. I look at him as the next generation Nate Diaz or next generation Nick Diaz. Obviously, that's how I kind of look at him. Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz, they paved the way for guys like Kevin Holland.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And it's those guys are so polarizing. It's kind of like they're not just stuck in the neutral. And I've talked about this, with other fighters on here, is that relating to that is that it's how you put on a show. If you get the knockout, if you're a knockout kind of person, because that's what people watch for.
Yeah.
Like, I'm guessing people like us, not guessing, but people like us, okay, well, we train, so we know what's going on.
Yeah.
But come on, let's face it, like the majority of people are like, what the fuck, stop hugging, and get the knockouts and all that stuff. And then when you see Conor McGregor knock out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds.
Didn't lose in a decade prior to that. He was on one of the greatest runs of all time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point, actually. Yeah. What do you think was it about Conor McGregor that got everyone hyped up? When they got to see him, do you think it was just a movement kind of thing? Talking shit.
The way he fought, first of all, is a fan's dream. stylistically. It's a fan's dream. Like you said, nobody likes the hugging. Listen, jiu-jitsu is an art.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of jiu-jitsu. I'm not a big fan of the rolling around with not scoring points. There's a difference between, laying and praying and you're going to win and, looking for a submission. A guy like
stalling.
A guy's like Charles Oliveira. I love to watch him on the ground.
Yeah,
he's looking to submit somebody. A guy like Grant Dawson, no disrespect. I'm not necessarily interested in watching him as much where he's looking to wrestle you, he's looking to pressure you, which that's his style. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're really good at something, you go with it, But everybody has their own, their love for the sport. I think McGregor caught the eye with the way he kicked people, with his movement, with his shit talk. 70% of why people loved him is he backed it up. He backed it up, and everybody hates on that type of guy because once they fall, cool thing is to rag on him. But when he's at the top, it was the coolest thing in the world. And I'm not sitting here, being a homer and being like, oh, McGregor, this McGregor.
Yeah.
Come on. When you think of the UFC, you think MMA, that's like the coolest run ever. For me, the second coolest run is probably Oliveira's run and Pineda's run. But when you think polarizing runs, that guy's run was relatable.
Yeah.
Because it was just so insane. It was like a video game. Like,
there's also, there's something about his shit talking compared to what it is now. Like, I guess you could say cokehead McGregor.
Yeah.
It was just so witty.
It's
almost like he was just a comedian at that point, and it just came out so flowy, and then he delivered the timing. It literally was like a comedian.
I think it was 75% of the reason why he beat Jose Aldo that night.
Yeah.
I think his shit talk and his banter, the worst thing that could have happened for Aldo was him getting hurt and McGregor having to fight Chad Mendez because he just got way more time to keep shit talking him. By the time he was done with him,
right?
He got to the cage. He said, "I feel the right hand twitching."
Yeah,
that's exactly how it went because the guy was too wound up and he was in his head mentally,
psychologically. Right?
He was saying words in his own language that he didn't even think was possible for him to know. It was an art, honestly. As bad as the things he said to him was, it was an art, and we're probably never going to see anything like that unless we get Ilya Patty. We'll probably never see anything like that again. Because Ilya is the closest thing we've seen to his run, in my opinion.
That's true. I
he's
agree.
taking down legends. He's telling us how he's going to do it. He's going and doing it. It's weird. But he has a lot of the same mannerisms as McGregor. You could see the way he moves, the way he, he talks a little bit, his trajectory of his career. Sure. It's very McGregor-like.
When you talk to going back to when you're talking to these fighters, right? What are some of the patterns of high-profile fighters that you see that make them successful, would you say?
I'd say hard work. I mean, a lot of the high-level fighters don't just work out like 3 rounds, obviously. A guy like Marab, I watch him spar all the time. Guy spars like 20 rounds. I've literally never seen anything like it.
It's gnarly.
Like, I literally, I'm sure you've seen it in the gym. I can't comprehend it. He'll go do 10 rounds, and then he'll go back on the mats, and he'll just go train again. And then he's screaming and yelling the whole time, like at everybody in the gym, like pumping everybody up.
Yeah.
That guy's different. That's why that guy's a champion.
He's an outlier for sure.
He's a one-of-one type guy, but, to add to that, there's other guys in the gym that I could just see. Even Nazim, obviously I work with Nazim. Yeah. Obviously, he's a really good friend of mine, but not to be a homer, the way he works when he's in the gym, he's a dog, man.
Yeah.
He's a dog. He's moving. He's going full speed like he's in a fight at all times. And it's such an art to watch them because the way they pull their punches and their kicks, and they don't hit you, but they hit you. It's so weird to watch up close. You don't know what it is until you really watch it and you experience it because everybody always like, oh, how do these guys get better? How do they, train in the gym without getting hurt or taking years off their lives? If you're that good at something, just because you could land it, you could pull it just as well. You're that good at something, I watched Jenkins and Nas spar. It's the craziest thing in the world. These two guys go into a car crash at all times, and then they leave the gym, and neither one of them's hurt.
Really?
I'm like, these guys just beat the shit out of each other, but nobody's hurt. Nobody has a scratch in their face.
Yeah.
But they just dominated each other for 10 minutes.
Is it the way they spar? Is it like the flowy type of spar thing? Is it...
So the guys like that, they're comfortable with each other. Even Cody Steele and Nas, they train a lot. Just the pace they go at. They go at a high-level pace without doing high-level damage.
Interesting.
Like even Marab, I watch Marab train.
Yeah, right.
You've seen the way he trains. It's high pace.
Yeah.
But the damage aspect, he's not looking to kill you.
I've sparred with him. Yeah.
If he takes you down, he's not looking to smash you on your head. He's looking to get you down. Like it's high level sparring,
Interesting, huh?
Watching these guys spar, I've learned a lot. Like just wow, they're this good. If you're that good at something, I guess, yeah, you can control yourself, you know?
It's so beautiful to watch. It's like an expression
Yeah.
of who they are. You know, like your good friend Nazim.
Yeah.
I obviously I don't know the guy, but then I've seen him on some clips on Instagram. It's literally like a dance. It's almost like I know what you're talking about when it's like he can pull it at the last minute, but then it's like art. He's moving, he's switching stances.
Yeah.
And then it's just like I mean, shout out to CT. You know, Conway. That was the clip. And I was the way he was moving, and then he backed him up against the wall.
Yeah, and then he shot.
It's like, damn, dude.
Yeah, and like most people don't even know he could wrestle. Like, you know, he could really wrestle. He can grapple too. You know, people don't see that side of it because he's so talented in the aspect of movement. Like, you just saw his fight this weekend. You know, he was on the ropes. He was getting, you know, tagged up a little bit to the body, and second he got out of that, it was movement. You heard Ray Longo in between rounds. You heard John Wood. It was get your ass out of there and move. Because once you start moving, it's going to be a long night for your opponent.
Yeah.
So move, man.
Yeah, exactly. So with Nazim, I guess it's kind of cliche to say, you know, with fighters, it's hard work, right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. How much of talent, what other attributes, maybe secondary, because I know hard work, you know, is priority. You have to show up to gym, discipline. But what other attributes make the one-of-one fighters like Marab and even Nazim? Like, he's getting up there. Like, he just like fucking put on a show for his country.
Well, all it takes is one, you know, all it takes is one performance and you're on the map. You know, that's this game. You're only as good as your last fight, as sad as it is to say, you know. But it's just like every other sport, you know. You're only as good as your last one. So, you know, right now he's the king of the world. Everybody loves him. But, you know, what would have happened if it would have been a different result in the first round, you know? You know, God willing, he got it done. It was a tremendous performance, but, you know, that's how quickly it could change, you know? Everybody thought he was on the ropes, and then boom.
Yeah.
Now he's the man. Everybody loves him. Like, it could change in the blink of an eye, but, you know, as far as having that one-of-one, it's all about the mindset. The mindset is everything.
Can you elaborate on that?
You got to be there mentally, you know? You know, there are a lot of fighters who have, you know, mental issues, and I'm not saying like mental health issues by any means.
Sure.
I'm saying like, you know, you got to defeat your demons before you get in the cage. You got to, you know, everybody has doubts. You know, you hear fighters talk about it all the time. You hear Tom Aspinall talk about it, you know, just me and another dude, we locked the cage, you know, at the end of the day, those thoughts go out the window. Me and him got to settle it, you know? Yeah. You got to defeat your demons of, you know, this guy can knock me out. This guy could submit me. You know, this guy could really damage my brain. He could damage my legs. You have to get past those fears before you even get in the cage. And then once you're in the cage, it's, you know, you go do your thing. But beating the mental side of it, probably more than half the battle. You know, if you're mentally on point, mentally sharp, you know, that's going to make you a better fighter in the gym. That's going to prepare you better. Eating is a huge deal. You know, getting the right protein, getting the right type of food in your system, not eating junk food, not going out drinking and stuff like that. Like Nazim doesn't drink, Marab doesn't drink. Some people, it's like that with their religion. Some people, you know, they just don't drink.
They just don't drink,
It's just, you know, the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But just for example, those two guys, I know for a fact they don't drink, you know? So.
Yeah, I think that's very important. You know, somewhere I heard, speaking of that, I heard that, I don't know if it was the One Profound podcast with Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo, but someone was saying like diet didn't even matter. Like people, not even in just fighting.
To each your own, yeah. Some guys
like there's some freaks out there, right?
Some guys
Genetic
have their
freaks.
own things, but if you get yourself, like if you're actually putting in the work and you don't have to worry about, you don't have to rely on genetics and you don't have to rely on, you know, just flat out talent, you know, you're going to be better, 1% better every day. Something I credit Nazim to that he does really well is he listens to his body. You know, it's going to sound corny, but he listens to his body. When his body's telling him you're not going to go today, he doesn't go. Like,
I like that.
When as far as like hard sparring, like he'll still work out and stuff like that. I'm not saying like he won't show up. I'm saying,
but talking about like Nazim, and he listens to his body.
He listens to his body. Like, he'll know when it's, you know, let's go 80% today. Let's go 50% today. Let's just roll around. Let's hit the pads. Let's, you know, let's spar. Let's move. You know, he's very good with that. And, you know, sometimes I give him a lot of shit for it. You know, I give him shit for him. Say, yo, get your ass in the gym, this, that, or, you know, go do this, go do that. You know, and, you know, he proves me wrong, you know. He listens to his body. You know, I've come to realize nobody knows Nazim more than Nazim knows Nazim. So just let him rock. You know, the guy's on a 12-fight streak. You know, he knows what works for him. Yeah. I'm not necessarily a coach, obviously. So, you know, I can give him as much support and as much, you know, motivation and stuff as I possibly can. But at the end of the day, like I said, nobody knows Nazim better than Nazim knows Nazim.
Bro, I love that because, in today's culture, if you are, somewhat of a go-getter and then you're like one of those guys that are really amped up in reaching their goals,
Yeah.
there's the hustle culture, right?
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I like hearing that because it's like go, 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 go. It's like not even in like athletic sports, if your mind's kind of loopy and then you got brain fog and then you burning yourself out, you should probably take a walk somewhere or probably get some sleep or
sometimes,
something.
it is better to push too, though. There's both sides of the coin. Sometimes you gotta just, sack up and just get your ass in the gym and go do it. There's days you're not gonna want to be there that you have to go be there. It builds character.
Yeah, it builds resilience. Yeah.
But, we've found a good middle ground, as far as me like talking to him about that type of stuff because, it started where I was just a camera guy for him. I started, just, I got a text message, hey, this guy just moved out there. I know you just moved out there. You should connect. You're really good friend. One of my good friends, this guy, Dennis Bazooka, he's in the UFC. Good friends with him as well.
Yeah.
So he shot me a text. He said, you guys should connect. We connected like 3 weeks in, right off the rip. He was like, you guys are going to be like this. And since then, he tells me all the time, like he fucks around with me. Like, you're not just a camera guy. But then like he'll mess around and be like photo boy. Like he'll drop shit like that every once in a while just to piss me off. But we've become really good friends. So, I also try to look out for his best interests as well. He's got a really good manager as well. He's got a really good team.
For sure.
With Ruby Sports and Entertainment. That's, the best in the business. So, he's ready to roll. He's set up well. He's got a good team around him, and I'm just happy to be here, man.
I can tell because if to reach that level of success, you are your environment. That's like one of my main philosophies. You are your environment, right? If you hang out with 5 dumbasses, you'll be the 6th. Like,
sure.
And what's funny is that Chris over here, my video guy, it's this kind of same thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's, doing this video stuff and then he's reaching networks and all that stuff, right? It's like, it's kind of how it happens, with
for sure.
At first he's like my camera guy and all of a sudden he's gonna get somewhere because he's a good kid.
Yeah, like it went from like, oh, I need you to help me run my socials to fully run my socials to
to travel with me and shit.
I watch him work out every single day to now I just spent 16 days in a foreign country I've never heard of before I started talking with him. And I stayed with him every second of the day, not to make it weird, but I stayed in his apartment with him, stayed in the Fighter Hotel with him.
It's a connection.
Like it just is what it is. Like, and it's that type of bond where like I'm willing to walk through fire for him and, the feeling is mutual, I'm very happy and very proud of what he did this weekend.
Yeah.
Fucking incredible. Excuse my language, but that's the only way to describe it.
Cuss all you want, man.
But, he's a dog and I'm happy that, I said it for weeks leading up to it. The world's going to find out. And what better spot to find out than ABC, one of the 3 original sports networks.
Yeah, funny thing is, I don't mean to be biased because he does train at Syndicate too. It's just, just watching those footage and being, like a martial artist ourselves, it's like, oh, this guy's on a whole different like playing
when
field.
He's locked in, he's on a different level, man.
Yeah, I'm like watching footage. I understand we watch a lot of high level guys, but there's just something about someone, and I don't mean to make it weird. It's almost like there's a girl, right? Like if you're attracted to a girl, there's something about her that I can't explain.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, there's just something about her.
He's got that little bit of aura to him, the way he moves and is striking that. It's a little bit of
I can't even pinpoint it.
It's a little bit of a different type of, a lot of different styles.
Right. Yeah. It's just very flowy, I think.
But I watched, so there was a guy out there, Chingiz Alazov, I believe his name is. Yeah. He's one of the greatest kickboxers in world history. But he's from Baku, he's from Azerbaijan, he's from out there. And, he was there giving him, motivation, giving him, work, all that stuff, during the weight cut, came to dinner, all that stuff. They describe him as this big legend. I had never seen him fight. I'm not too inept with the one championship.
Yeah.
I obviously believe them. I watched the guy fight. I said, holy shit, this is the coolest thing ever. Like this guy he can crack. But then I'm watching him, I'm like, got a lot of this guy in him. And then I'm like, he's got a little McGregor with the movement in him. He's got a little bit of the Chingiz in him. He's got a little bit of, I know maybe this is a fight down the road, but he's got a little bit of Roofy, that same type of style. It's movement though, it's an art.
Yeah,
it's normal to glaze at it, man. It's an art. Like, it's something that you kind of have or you don't have. There's no teaching it. You can't teach footwork like that. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah. I mean, and I can respect different types of styles. Like, as I see Nazim, like, he seems very, very light on his feet.
Yeah.
But then if Topuria is different, right? It's almost like he walks you down. He walks you down. He's heavy,
That's
he's
your traps.
heavy. His legs are spread out more, right? Like a boxer.
Yeah.
And it's just a different thing. His head movement's different too. So compared to, if you compare that to Nazim, which is, apples and oranges, I get it, but it's like two different styles that are very beautiful to watch.
Yeah. That's the beauty of martial arts though, man. There's a bunch of different arts, Yeah. And it's awesome to get to see it. Now we're seeing a lot more judo too, MMA, where we'd seen it, but we're seeing so much more of it. And now we're seeing more of it at the top. Like we're seeing Kayla Harrison is the baddest woman in the world right now. She's all judo. That's her base, but she can crack too. But that's her base. And it was beautiful, to see her judo and then see her jujitsu on the ground and, see her identify, Juliana Pena had an injury. See her identify the weakness and just going,
Yeah,
it's a game. You got to go kill the
Of
lamb.
course.
Like when Aljo,
Of
got
course.
TJ Dillashaw. It's a part of the game, man.
It's innate in us to do
At
it.
the end of the day, you get locked in a cage and your job is to go finish somebody.
Of course.
There's no friends in the industry. I don't care what injury you have, what you got going on. It's a part of the game. If you agree to get locked in the cage, that's unfortunate, and it's not right, but there's no moralities in combat sports. Once you're in the cage, you're in the cage. As long as you're not taking steroids and you're not cheating, you're not throwing a fight, there's no moralities,
Especially if, you
Just don't eye poke me or kick me in the, you know what I mean? That's it. Those are the only moralities. Besides that, it is what it is. We should have pride rules. Bring back the pride rules. Soccer kicks on the ground. I'm in. I'm in. I don't got to get hit by them, but I'm in,
Exactly. Especially if you're providing for your family. I was talking to Jordan Levitt and he was saying that, since he had a kid and then he had another kid on the way, there's a lot more stake, right? Because
more pressure.
Fighters pay. You don't know how it's good just because you get a match.
So I actually, I'm not leaking a combo or anything because it all worked out. Obviously, he got the bonus in his last fight. He looked great. But we were in the PI. We were in the hot tub, I believe. Me, him.
That famous hot tub.
Famous hot jacuzzi, famous one.
Yep.
It was me, him, Jenkins, Nas, a couple more guys, I believe. But everybody's just shooting the shit and. He's talking about how he really wants the bonus, for his, his newborn, all that stuff. And watching him get the bonus and getting the finish in like a minute or 30 seconds, whatever it was, which is so awesome because like, obviously my opinion doesn't really matter too much to him. Obviously he's a really nice guy. I don't really know him too well, but it was just cool to remember that moment and, think about the journey now. Like, wow, I was really sitting there as this guy was talking about this and then he went and he did it. And it's like, you can't put a price on that stuff, It's just cool to see and it's cool to experience at times. And, above all, I was happy for the guy.
Yeah.
You hear somebody talk about it and they're a real person. They're a human, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then you go see them go do it. It's like, how could you not be happy for someone like that,
Yeah, and knowing Jordan, he's just having him on the podcast, he's just very, very well spoken. He's smart.
Super nice guy. I work
Super
with a guy
nice
who
guy.
said he went to high school with him. I was like, that's so crazy. Like, I didn't even realize that, you put two and two together. He's a normal person, bro. Like, he does normal things. Like,
and then when you roll with him, he's just takes it easy.
Yeah.
There's not one.
The best story about him is Brandon Jenkins loves to tell it. It's Jordan went and fought in the Apex at like 1 p.m. Got a finish, got a submission, won the fight. He was in the grocery store at like 2:30 in Vegas, and somebody saw him and was like, "Didn't you just fight?" Like in his full fight kick gear, just like getting like groceries and fruits and stuff. Like it's just crazy. The fight game, like some of these dudes aren't like. Obviously, we have the McGregor side where people go out and they party, they get hammered after they win. Like then you have the other side where guys like Jordan Levitt, they go buy groceries, they go be a normal guy after they win.
Do you think that's most martial artists? So the patterns that I've
boxing
kind of
laid that
seen.
groundwork.
What's up?
Boxing laid that groundwork because boxing is they're prize fighters.
Right.
They're all about the money. So celebrating it like that is normal.
Yeah.
UFC guys, until you get to the top, you don't make the money like that unless you're getting bonuses. So it's hard to be all about the money when the money isn't there necessarily. They're doing a little bit better of a job, in my opinion, now the UFC with the paydays and stuff like that.
I think yes. I think so. Yeah.
I would like to see sponsorships back on the shorts. I think it was cool.
Sure. Yeah. That's a good one.
I think it was really cool. I think it helped the fighters get paid.
Absolutely.
Or even like let them wear a shirt when they walk out. Let them wear a hat. Let them do something. They're obviously I have a couple friends who are fighters in the UFC, so like it sounds a little bit biased, but it would be cool for them. That's how it should be.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. I think as a brand, right? UFC. This is probably obvious, but they want to keep everything in house. Like they they want to brand their own
yeah.
sponsor, like crypto.com, right?
For sure, I get it. It's a business, 100%.
Yeah, it's a business, but then, yeah, that's a whole topic within itself, you know.
But I'm curious to see how it goes now with the Zuffa boxing. Are they going to have the same model as the UFC? Because if they do, like, I like the ranking aspect of it. They're going to have one belt. That I do know. That's awesome. Boxing does not need 4 belts. There's no reason for it. Unless you're in the heavyweight
They
division.
have like 10,000 belts, don't they? Like, it's like every 2 pounds.
But
they
there's
have
like 4 major belts.
Okay,
I'm saying per like divisions, like the unified, you know, the undisputed, whatever it is, heavyweight champion of the world. That's a really big deal. You can leave that one. Cool. That's like one of the biggest deals in the world. I get it. That's the baddest man in the world boxes at heavyweight. I get it.
Yeah.
We don't need that for every division. We need one title, just like the UFC has. Call it a day.
Yeah, and I think it'd bring more light to, because it's a big deal, right? Yeah. It's almost like if you just made it one, it's like,
Stakes
this is the ultimate.
Stakes are higher, man. Like, we don't need a 65-pound division in the UFC. We don't need a 75-pound division. We have more than enough divisions.
Yeah,
we don't need more. You know, there's more. If you're that good, you're going to get to the UFC. I don't care what anybody says.
There's something to that.
There's some exceptions.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the Contender Series is a thing. Dana White looking for a fight is a thing. Road to the UFC is a thing. We have tons of connections like the LFA, CFFC, which are basically minor league spots for...
Right, to get them up there, yeah.
Get them up there. They fight there on the main event or something like that. They get signed pretty much. Like, there's tons of routes now to get there. It's the Ultimate Fighter as well, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
Now we have UFC BJJ. Like, some of those guys are actually going to translate. You know, some of those guys I'm sure could crack a little bit. You know, I know I've spoken personally to Mikey Musumeci.
Yep.
He's not looking to crack. He's looking, you know, he's set with the jiu-jitsu. You know, when you're at the top of the chain, you're at the top of the chain.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, I'm sure that at some point they're going to start dipping their water with some of these boxers, or some of these guys are going to retire from the UFC and go box. You know, they're going to say that it's not going to happen, but...
I mean, you got Buchecha.
Like, if Conor McGregor wants to go box, is Dana let him go box with somebody else, or is he going to go box with Turkey and Dana?
Yeah.
They're not going to go let guys like that go make tons of money. Dustin Poirier wants to go box, something like that. Max Holloway when he's done. Alex Pineda.
Everyone.
Come on.
It's pretty much everyone.
It's everybody.
You know?
They're all going to want to go do it.
Even Ilya's like, oh yeah, you know, Canelo would be a good fight.
You know, like,
they know where the money's at.
They're going to get a piece of it, you know?
Yeah.
Dana's going to get a piece of it. That's just how it is. Just good business ethics. That's how it should be.
I think Dana wants to go for like the big money. I mean, this is obvious, but then he wants to go for the big money Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather thing, right? They had a worldwide global promotion on that one.
Well, the only thing that the UFC lacks right now truly is like a star. And it sounds crazy. Like, there are stars, but it lacks a superstar.
A mega.
Like, Pineda was the closest thing we were going to get to that. Because he just went on this run where he just kept beating everybody. And the way he was beating people was just like, what the fuck is this guy made of? Like, how is he beating everybody like this?
Yeah.
Like, you know, everybody just keep betting against him. But that was like the closest thing to like, you know, like he just, you know, he had the thing, Shama. I met him. The guy's aura went through my body. Like, it was fucking crazy. But that's the one thing we're lacking. And it's probably like Ilia Topuria is probably the next guy up. Like, that's the closest thing we're going to... If he finishes Charles Oliveira in the first and the second round, like he says he's going to, game on. Like, he can go fight Islam. He can go fight, you know, Paddy Pimblett in a stadium, which would be the biggest fight, in my opinion, we've seen since Conor against Khabib. The shit talk those two have and the dislike and hatred they have for each other is real. We need more of that in the sport. And you could say that I'm a bad person for it, but animosity sells and styles make fights. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, man. That fight itself would be fireworks. That's what the UFC's missing.
If you don't market it right, you have nothing. You know, that's the way I see it.
As big of a fight as John and Tom was going to be, I don't think it would have been as like hyped. Like, obviously, it would be one of the biggest fights of all time, but it wouldn't have been cool trash talk. Like, John Jones is past that stage in his career where like he's not talking anymore like that. It's more of like, shut up, Tom. Wait your turn. Like, it's not like John Jones is going to come out there and say some vile shit that he used to say when he was 31 years old. Like,
I mean, was he even like that when he was
really
31 though?
Like, he really wasn't, but like, you know, like the hype between Patty and Ilya, we got history already. They were throwing water bottles at each other, hand sanitizer at each other. We have history. They don't like each other.
Yeah. And it was on camera.
And they go back and forth on Twitter all the time. That was on camera before social media was like huge with MMA. Like, that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
So the UFC is looking for a superstar. I think that's the one thing it lacks right now.
You know, going back to what you were saying about Alex Pereira, right?
Yeah.
So that always reminds me of something, how language is so powerful because Vince McMahon, now this is going to relate, I promise you.
Yeah.
When John Cena did a movie, right? And this was on the Joe Rogan podcast. They were talking about it. When John Cena did a movie, and China's the biggest movie market, right? That's their biggest market. What Vince McMahon had John Cena do was learn like Taiwanese.
Yeah.
That was the smartest fucking move I've ever had.
Yeah.
So when you speak about like Alex Pereira, I think this is just my personal opinion. I think the one X factor that kept them from being a megastar was the English.
For sure.
And that's not to say that like he wasn't a big star. Like like you said, he's the biggest thing. You've been around him and all that. But then if he would have caught that market, because it is a business, as you know,
he started to catch it. That's what really, once he started doing the social media and he started dancing and he started speaking.
Right.
And Penelope Cruz and all those guys got involved in social media. Like, that's when he really started to go like that. He got on the scene as just a guy who, like, it was funny to watch him troll Izzy. Like, it was funny to just watch him just keep doing all the stuff he was doing and then just keep beating Izzy. Like, it was just genuinely funny. And I'm a big Izzy guy. It's one of my favorite fighters of all time. But once he started, like you said, once he cracked that barrier and he just started to start with the English, he just was scratching the surface. And now he lost to Ankalaev, and we really haven't heard much. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. You're only as good as your last fight in this game, and it's
true.
It's almost disgusting, because he's still
Recency
that star.
effect.
Recency bias sucks,
dude. And back to my point about like Oliveira was one of them. Remember when he was like, "Oh, thank you," like he did an interview and then he started speaking.
They screwed him, and
Everyone
he beat Arman. They screwed him.
But he started, and then the crowd went fucking nuts when he started speaking that broken English, right?
Because it's awesome.
It's awesome. Like, it's
you see the guys trying. That's one, and two, like,
he's a badass fighter. Yeah,
he's a badass, and like
a fan favorite. Yeah,
it's funny to hear guys like Canelo. When Canelo talks shit in English, it's the funniest thing in the world.
There you go.
It's so funny because of the accent. Because, like, wow, this guy actually could talk English. Like, this is pretty crazy. And then, like, just the way they say it's funny. It's just funny. Like, when I was in
Khabib, send it. Like, that's fucking funny.
When
I
was in Baku and I was talking in Nazari, like, they were teaching me things. I was talking in Nazari. Every time I said "Sal," which is thank you, they started dying laughing. Like, they would go, "Saul, brother." Like, they would just make fun of me. Like, it's the same thing. Like, in America, when we hear them use our accents, it's funny. Like, it's just how it is. Like, it's not, derogatory. It's not making fun of them. It's just genuinely different. Canelo's accent is the English accent, American accent is the funniest thing I've ever heard. I'm gonna fuck you up right now. It's like, it's so funny. Like,
it's very, very. The other thing is, it's very admirable.
Yeah,
too,
like, he's
because
trying.
if they're willing to learn it in English, from what I heard, right, like from other like nationalities, English and like Chinese, Cantonese, whatever, has to be two of the hardest languages. And for someone of ethnicity to learn English and completely not know anything about it, and not even just in the high level, like I know some friends that learned English along the way just by living in America. It's very admirable. It's like, it's funny at the same time because, the dialect.
Like, holy shit. Like,
but it's like
impressive.
Wow, you got what I'm saying. And then when they start to pick up the certain, like, what's it called? Like, making fun aspect, right? When they start bullshitting. The slang. It's like, oh, good for you, man. It's like, wow, he's talking shit back to you. And then, like I said, send them to Dagestan and forget about it. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? Like,
I got to that. Send them to Baku 2 or 3 and forget this past 2 weeks was so funny. Like, people were just saying that to me.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm throwing it back to you. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, creators, like myself, not necessarily like, listen, I have a lot of followers. I have like 40,000 followers or like 10,000 on Twitter or same thing on TikTok.
Right.
Like, I'm not gloating the numbers. I'm just saying. Like,
Like,
I have like combined like 70,000 total followers.
Sure.
So I'm not like an influencer, but like
that's a lot for
sure for the space that we're in for guys who do stuff like we're doing.
But see, before you go to that question, people don't understand how hard it is to get those. Well,
I've also had an account at 30-something thousand that got taken down because I was copyrighting a UFC video. Long story short, I collabed something with Rob Font, and the UFC must have seen it. Zuffa took all my old videos down before I could even do anything. It was gone. Long story short. Now I'm back. I have a pretty big following, but I wouldn't necessarily call myself an influencer. I'm a creator. But my question is, how do you feel about guys like me, creators, getting in the cage, getting in the ring and competing? Do you think it's disrespectful to the sport, or do you think the sport has now come such a long way that we should be welcoming to creators getting in there, and it's should be respected because it takes a different type of level of a mindset to actually get in there and do something.
It's subjective to me because we're both in the space. And I think you kind of have an idea of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Look, we both train.
Yeah.
You've gotten into, competitive matches.
Yep.
I think it's a beautiful thing because it connects to everything that we're doing, right? Just like the whole situation with the judges, like, who are they? Like, they've never been in a cage. How are they judging? That's a big issue, right?
Yeah.
But for you to have that experience and then be a content creator at the same time, you're connecting all the dots together in your skill set.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? That's what, it's one of the reasons why I had you on, because I think it's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
You train, you fought before, you've had the experience, you're building up your following, you're marketing yourself, you're branding yourself. I think it's the pathway to not having first of all, it's very creative.
Yeah.
But it's a pathway to not just being systemized as in like being a W-2 worker. You see what I'm saying? You're paving your way for what you're, and look, I listened to this guy, Naval Ravikant. One of the best things I've ever heard is specialization is for insects. Yeah. I think you live one life, and I think you should do everything that you can in that one life. It's a very short life.
I'm really big into, take the risk. Obviously I moved 2,000 miles across the country.
Yeah.
I took that fight, I was supposed to fight another creator, another influencer type of guy. They couldn't find that type of opponent. They gave me an opponent. It was like 2 weeks out. Everybody was juiced up for it. I said, fuck it. Who am I? I'm not backing out. Fuck this.
Yeah.
I was about 20 pounds overweight with about 3 days, 4 days to go. We made the weight. That whole week was a mess. I should not, looking back on it, I definitely should not have done it. But, I did it. I can't hide from it. I hid from it long enough. I buried it. I put my head down and, I buried it. The promotion never posted anything about it, so I could have just walked away from it. I still gave a statement. I still, told everybody on Instagram, listen, fucked up. I lost. It is what it is. Beat myself, essentially. I went out there. Guy landed 0 strikes in 2 rounds. He was like 2 for 9 on takedowns. All he wanted to do was wrestle. Anybody who knows me knows I never in a million years would have taken a fight if that was, how it was going to go. I was in there to crack and there just have some fun and, say I did it, most importantly, say that I had the balls to, face your fears and face your demons and get in there. Because, something people don't realize is like 5 minutes before you actually go out and make that walk and you hear everybody screaming. Saw all my boys. I had over 120 fans there for me at a regional MMA match. Like, that doesn't happen. 100 people don't show up for somebody's debut who's never wrestled, who's never boxed, who has no fighting experience. So it was a lot of pressure, and it was in my hometown and pressure makes diamonds, but
Absolutely.
I didn't get it done that.
I love that.
I didn't get it done that night, but I learned something way more valuable than, I could ever have been taught. And, you can't bullshit this game. I bullshit it, I thought it was a layup. I thought I was going to go in there. We were just going to crack. I was going to knock the guy out. And, I had him wobbled in the second round. And then my ego was like, fuck it. He took me down twice. I'm taking him down. Took him down, rolled into something that, I wasn't prepared for. And that's the game, You want to play with the fire, sometimes you get burned. And I learned that day that if I'm going to get back in there and I'm going to do something like that, your ass better be ready to go because those demons you fight with, post-loss, nothing can compare to it. Nothing, because I buried it. You didn't see me on social media for a long time after I made that didn't go my way type of post. Like, you didn't see me out there in the open. I've been working with Nazim for like 6 months. Nobody knew about it until about a month and a half ago, just because I just didn't want to talk about anything anymore. And this is like the first appearance pretty much I've done. Yeah. Maybe second appearance I've done podcast wise. And I'm a guy with a big following, and I'm a guy who, because I didn't take something seriously, almost was willing to throw it all away and just not necessarily walk out of the space. But you know how it is. If you don't stay on top of your content and on your game, you're just as good as your last one. So I can have all the followers in the world, but once I kill my algorithm and once I kill my fans and support, you're not worth anything anymore, and that's huge. So thankfully, God willing, everything's worked out. I gained 6,000 followers in Baku in the past couple of weeks. I credit a lot to Nazim. I'm very thankful for him to bring me out there. As much work as I do for him is as much as he does for me. It's a very good relationship in that sense. But, I'm not going to lie. I'll keep it real with you, man. I buried it for a long time. And, those demons have, led me back into the gym to say, once again, excuse my language, fuck everybody. I got to go back in there and I got to do it again. So my phone's been ringing off the hook. There's a couple different promotions, regional MMA or, some of this influencer boxing, a couple spots across the country in Miami and that type of stuff have showed some interest, even overseas type of boxing. So we'll see. I think it's the right thing for me to get back in there. And, it's just another part of the story where, there's more fears to face. It's just as inspiring the first time to do it than to go do it again. Because I thought, people were going to be like, oh, this guy disrespected the sport. Fuck this kid. I'm happy he lost. The amount of fighters that reached out to me and said, hey, man, keep your head up. That are in the UFC, that are regional, ex-pros, ex-boxers, that you wouldn't even believe the type of names I'm telling you that reached out and were like, hey, man, just keep your head up. It's a part of it, man. It's a part of the game. Like, you're not going to win every single time. Who are you? You didn't train your whole life. Like, right. If you weren't prepared, you weren't prepared, man. Just be prepared for the next one. And that was inspiring. And watching these guys train every day and watching these guys work and being around guys like John Wood and Max Suarez, who's my head coach. Mm-hmm. Max has me getting right every day. And, being around these type of guys, it just keeps me motivated to get back in there and actually get it done this time. And, I know how important it is. I know how much of a risk it is. The risk for guys like us, to get in there, it's you lose, all the comments are going to be like, why can you talk about fighting? How are you going to talk about fighting? You suck. That's what it was for me for a little bit. I go live. I'm a sports card streamer with the UFC stuff. That's how it is sometimes.
Well, the interesting thing is, okay, so there obviously that was a lot to take in. There's a few things that I want to say to that.
Sure, yeah.
We're our biggest enemy.
For sure.
That's the thing. We mind fuck ourselves.
Me versus me.
Yeah, exactly. Like what you talked about, 90% of what's important to us, no one really gives a shit about. It's what you tell yourself. It's the narrative that you tell yourself. It's almost like, oh, whether I failed because I decided to compete, and then you're going to put a number on it, like, 40,000 followers. I mean, think about if you had like 200 followers, mm-hmm. right? It probably wouldn't have mattered to you that much, but that's a self-inflicting wound.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, self-inflicting self-sabotage kind of thing. It's almost like, well, and I get it, because as humans, we have we're very social people. We care about what people think. I don't give a fuck if someone says, oh, I don't care. Yeah, you do. Because it's evolutionary in us.
When it comes to the territory, like, obviously, I don't mind having all those followers. I love having all those followers.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure everyone does.
It comes with it. I troll back all the time. It comes with it. Like, if you're prepared, I told this to Nas 2 days ago. If you're prepared to be the man, like you're the man right now, you better be prepared to be the heel when nobody wants to be friends with you and nobody wants to like you. Because that happens sometimes. You go into it. He called out Benoit Saint Denis. You go into France, they ain't going to like you over there. Mm-hmm. They're going to be motherfuckering you the second you land in Canada or you land in France, wherever you go, wherever the fight is,
Yeah.
The second you land out there, they're going to be after you. So, it's all roses right now, but they're going to come and get you. That's a part of the game. You're not always going to be the guy who's loved. Habib is 30-0, 29-0, whatever he was, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Nobody loved him for a very long time. And now everybody appreciates him. Everybody goes back and appreciates the guy. It's a part of it. It's not would you rather be feared or loved? That's what it comes down to. Sure. The famous quote. Sometimes you could be both.
Yeah, I think, one of it's almost like a meditation practice. It's like you have to pull yourself out of yourself. It's almost like astral recall, meaning that look at yourself from a bird's eye view.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like, look, what are you really thinking about? Like after this, either if you win or if you lose, I know we talked about like, yeah, people forget about you, but even when you win, right?
Yeah.
People still have to make dinner for their kids.
For sure.
People still have to go to work the next day. They don't give a fuck about you.
For sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? About your personal life. They don't give a fuck where you get your money from to provide for your family. No one cares about that shit.
Yep.
Like
for me,
you know what I mean?
For me, where it is with that type of stuff, it's like, it's a personal thing for me. Like, I have to get it done now. Like, I was talking to my brother about it. My brother was pretty much against it. He's like, you've built yourself back up into this stature in the space where like, you don't need to take that risk. Even with I go streaming I'm streaming the sports cards. Like, I have people coming with the comments. He's like, you don't need to deal with that. Like, just ride it out. You're doing a really good thing right now. You're doing a good job. Keep making these connections with a lot of these fighters. Keep making relationships and do your thing.
Can I say something too?
For sure.
Like about your fight? I commend you very, very highly for that, because I think that itself, taking a fight, is number one, challenging yourself, which builds self-growth.
Yeah.
Number two, we always have to constantly evolve.
Yeah.
If we get too comfortable with our lives, even if you have 40,000 followers and then you're doing your thing and you seem to be successful, you have to, that's where complacency begins. Going. You have to keep just, threading the water. You have to keep churning, right? Yeah. Otherwise, if you're, that quote, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
Even if you're successful, right? If I were to just do this podcast and then it'd be the same thing every fucking week,
Yeah.
and then I wasn't changing anything, like, okay, so as an example, it's almost like I had a recorder here. I had those 2 mics up there, which I put on display. They're shitty mics, but then look where we're at now.
Yeah.
Not that it's like
big
anything
time
fucking
setup,
crazy
man.
big, but then it's almost like just over time. That's just evolution.
Yeah,
it's
a
almost
nice
like
setup, though. I love it here, man.
Thank you,
This
man.
is
I
fire.
appreciate it. But it's no different from you wanting to take a fight. You're challenging yourself.
Yeah.
You're gonna figure things out. Maybe you might meet some people.
Well, a big deal for me was once, we couldn't get the creator on board, we couldn't get the, the social media guy on board to fight. Big deal for me was I'm not disrespecting the sport by taking an amateur MMA fight. Like I'm fighting another person who
Yeah,
they
sure
flew him
as
in
hell don't
from-
think so,
They
yeah.
flew him in from Georgia.
Mhm.
A lot of people get a lot of shit for they'll go and they'll box on some of these weird cards, or they'll go like Misfits is very accepted now. But at first, people would like the Dylan Dennis, Logan Paul type of stuff. People don't like that in boxing.
Mm.
So that, in my eyes, was like, okay, you're gonna go do it the right way, win, lose, or draw. They should respect it.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be like a tune-up for me. Just get your feet wet. Didn't go my way, obviously, but like I said, man, it's really stuck on my mind. But it's something that I never even dreamed about doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when you make that walk and you look around, and you're like, what? the
This is crazy.
fuck?
Yeah,
Everybody's
right.
here for you. Like, I looked around, I was like, what the? My friends talk about it to the day. They're like, yo, you gotta do it again. Like, that was so awesome. We loved it. Like, what'd you guys love? The guy sat on me for 3 minutes and then,
If I was your friend, I would have been like, that was fucking crazy. But that's just me because I'm a big advocate of,
Yeah.
because look, when we get into like all these creative spaces, right? And
Yeah.
then we're not your common kind of like, yeah, let's go to a job and stuff like that. We have to support each other. As you sometimes see on my social medias, on my stories, I'll promote someone. I'll never forget what this is probably off topic, but then what Donald Rawlings said. He's a comedian that's friends with Joe Rogan and them.
Yeah.
When he was on Uncle Shay Shay's podcast.
yeah.
He said that, you know what makes Joe Rogan and all those guys successful? They fucking promote each other.
Yeah.
Right? But so many people are to themselves. They're like, yeah, I don't want to fuck up my brand because I'm promoting this and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
there's
It's
way
like,
too
dude,
much
get
hate.
the fuck out of your high horse. Like, if Nas, my other friend,
He's a
Nazir,
fucking killer too, man.
yeah, man. If he's teaching the youth, if he's doing something good, if you're out there, and I'll fucking repost the fuck out of it all day.
Let me talk about him for a second.
Yeah.
Nasir Davis, he could fucking crack.
I love that fucking guy.
He could
dude.
crack.
He's like
man.
a brother
He's a guy
to me.
who's gonna come onto the scene now, and he's a guy you can go ask around the gym at Syndicate. They're gonna tell you that he's one of the top
Oh, I
prospects
know.
coming through the ranks right now.
Yeah, I
He's
know.
one of those dogs because he has it.
Yep.
Some
Yep.
guys, you can't teach it. There's other guys in the gym like Cameron Sandoval, who I don't know him from a hole in the wall.
Yep.
You don't know me. We just followed each other on Instagram a couple weeks
Yep.
ago or whatever. But I don't know him personally. But I could tell you that kid's a motherfucking athlete. That kid is good.
Yep.
And when they talk about people in the gym, they talk about him. They talk about Nasir, and then I go and I watch them, and I watch them spar Marab, who's the best in the world, and they're unwavered. They're not ready to quit. They're not ready to hang it up. They know it's going to be tough. You're going against the number 2 pound for pound in the world. Once you accept that, and you could train with a guy like that, you could train with anybody. You could fight anybody.
Right.
Those 2 kids got it, and Nasir has got it. He's got it a little bit, with the shit talk. He's got it
Yeah.
with the creativity on the social.
And he's developed that over
got
time.
He's got
Yeah.
the hair. He's got the style. He's not looking to, roll around the ground. He's looking to knock you the fuck out.
Yep.
He's got that little bit of aura to him where, he was on, with the Marab. He was on Brett Okamoto's ESPN page. They were cooking him in the comments. He was cooking him right back.
Right.
It was awesome to see, but you can't teach that. You have it or you don't have it. That kid's waiting in the park for his opponent to come there and fight him. Like, he's got it upstairs, Necessarily, they're probably not going to fight in the park, but mentally it's like, this kid, what's up with him? Why is he willing to do that right now? That's some Nate Diaz shit. That's some Connor shit. Come meet me at a location. Send me a message. That's some Habib shit.
Yeah.
That's next level. You can't teach that. And I commend that guy. I've seen him a couple times. I've took a couple of his classes. I've talked with him in the DMs every once in a while. That guy, I think he has it, and I commend him,
Yeah.
I commend him. I think he's going to go a lot of places with, his work ethic. Same thing with Cameron Sandoval.
Absolutely, man. Same with Cam. We say hi to each other at the gym. It's always good vibe. Like, you could feel the vibe. You know what I mean? We see each other. And yeah, I know what you're talking about. Where it's like, oh, he's gonna be fucking huge.
Listen, John's building a stable there. John Wood,
Dude,
when I was able to...
with his past success, like recently, not just recently, but then
Listen,
the way that like he's on a run right now.
I
is
had the chance to
crazy.
spend about 10 days with him in Baku. And, you know, it was the first time I've really actually gotten the chance to speak with him. I've spoken to JoJo a ton of times. JoJo's awesome.
Yeah.
I think JoJo's, you know, one of the nicest people in the MMA space. You know, she welcomed me and my brother, you know, into Syndicate with open arms. Two guys from New York who didn't know anybody from a hole in the wall. You know, I got there with Nas and, you know, they still welcome me in.
Yeah.
So, but John, obviously, he's the king of the gym. It's a little bit different with John, you know. I never really wanted to bother him or talk to him. I had the chance to talk to him in Baku, you know, a bunch of different times. We were at the Hammam Bath, which is there's a sauna, another word for the sauna out there. But it's like a retreat.
Mhm.
So, you know, I had the chance, you know, share a day with him, you know, walk around Old City with him and then, you know, see him during fight week. You know, John's a really nice guy, man. As much as a killer as he is, it was a blessing to get to pick his mind, to pick his brain. And, you know, it's sit there and really realize, wow, you're talking to a legend of the game. You're talking to a guy who's been through hell and back, a guy who knows what it feels like to actually step in there, who's cornered everybody under the sun, who's even cornered his wife in fights. So how could that be mentally for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to pick his brain was an absolute honor. And, you know, the coach of the year stuff is real, man. To watch and see, you know, him coach Nas up all week, it's like, this guy is different, man.
Yeah.
This guy is one of the smartest minds I've ever been around. And it was just a blessing, honestly. I'm not trying to, like, you know, to sit here and just talk up John Wood.
No,
but
I know.
Is one,
Yeah.
he's the coach of the year, man.
Yep,
He is
yep.
that good
Agreed.
of a mind. I've never seen anything like it.
It's not even just his coaching, right? When I had him on the podcast, I had a clear goal, right? And it wasn't as much as of a world-class MMA coach he is,
Yeah.
his business acumen. And we all know from entrepreneurship that, to me at least, entrepreneurship is the biggest self-improvement thing that you could do, because you have to face problems head on and you can't quit. Like, you know, and one of the things I've learned from John, what makes him a world-class MMA coach from the business aspect is just, it's cliche, but it's the never say die attitude.
Yeah.
If you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. That's what I got from him the most.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh, this guy doesn't quit. But then, you know, I watch a lot of like content creators and entrepreneurs and stuff like that. I'm into like business now. That's the one thing that someone will tell you. You have to outlast everyone, because you know 99% of the people that, like, oh man, it didn't work out, they're going to quit.
Listen, he told me he started that gym in 2003. Obviously, we see 2004 all over the walls in there. You know, that's over 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he's been a big name in the space, obviously. You know, he's cornered over, you know, hundreds of fights. But now he's turning into a superstar coach.
Yep.
That's the prime example of stay the fucking course.
Mm-hmm.
20 years later, he's now a superstar. After all the corners and all the fights he's had, he's always been a big name in the space. He's always been, you know, a very highly touted coach.
Yeah, but he was in the, he was like staying
a couple years back,
low.
a perfect example. A couple years back, you know, Extreme Couture, they had those couple champs run through the gym. Eric Nixick had all the hype in the world.
Yeah.
And this isn't a shot at Eric by any means. Now you look at John. John's got all the hype in the world. It's like we said, what have you done for me lately type of sport.
Sure.
And when you put in that much work and you go 20 years in the making, he deserves all that coach of the year type of stuff. And I don't know him that well. I don't know him too long. But from what I can grasp, that guy is one of the smartest motherfuckers I've ever met.
Yeah.
That guy is a smart man. Watching him train with Nas, who's already one of the most creative strikers I've ever watched work out, and watch him add things into the fold, I'm like, what is this guy on? How does this guy know all this stuff?
Yeah. He just...
Technician.
Exactly. And I think, you know, even though it is like a recency effect, and, you know, like say Nixick and John Wood, as biased as I am, because I go to Syndicate, but the thing is that I think in the Vegas space, right, they're kind of solidified.
Oh, there's
if
only
you think about it, it's fucking Syndicate, it's fucking Extreme. Like,
there's two spots to go, and
it's just you want to train with the best, you go there.
You know,
like,
you go to Syndicate. In my opinion, right now, you go to Syndicate.
Right. I mean,
it's not just him either. Max Suarez, who's my coach, is a great coach. Max is a great striking coach. You know. Then you got guys like, you know, Dom Paul is there. You know, Danny just had left, but Danny was a very good boxing coach.
Danny too.
The Shapiro bros are as badass dudes as you could find.
Oh my
and talk about guys with aura. They got some aura. Then you got the wrestling dudes, the brothers who come in.
Yeah.
Those guys
ATC
are
guys,
great.
yeah.
Those guys are fucking phenomenal. The gym is just top to bottom incredible. Incredible. Then you got Captain Vince Morales, who is the nicest guy I've ever met.
Damn,
That gym has welcomed me in, and I'm nobody important. That gym has welcomed me in with open arms, and
absolutely, man.
I just love being there. And when you look at a guy like John Wood, doesn't stop there because you got guys like Gable Stevenson who just came into the gym the other day. John has cornered Wei Lee, which is like, holy shit. Like, that's the baddest woman we've probably ever seen.
And she came here, like,
that's what I'm saying.
out of all the people that she could have worked with.
The respect level for that guy I have after the past 2 weeks grew even larger because I just sat there and I was like, well, I'm an idiot if I should have known this already. You know what I mean? Like, I should have known how important that guy really is. Not that I didn't, but when you really talk to the guy, like, you know, as much of a normal dude he is, fucking impressive.
We talked about, and relating to that, how the gym functions, you know, with all the guys. And that's what he told me. And it stuck out with me that once he started, I have a clip of it on Instagram, actually. He's like, once it started, or once he started changing the culture around the gym and the people there, that's when it started to change for him. Like when he got the chaperones in and, you know, Max and all that. Yeah. That's when the pieces started really working for him. Right. So it's like we get all these guys. If you have good guys around you, you got, you know, the team,
same thing you said about the team before, man.
Brother, like
you got 5 jackasses with you. The 6th is going to be the same.
Exactly. That's why I get people, like, particularly in this podcast, anecdotally, that's why I get people that, number one, are filled with integrity, right? They won't, like, it's easy to say they won't screw you over, but then it's easy to, like, judge people's behaviors by their actions, right? If they're late all the time, you know what I mean? It's almost like, all right, buddy. And if they're about the money all the time, it's like, all right, like, you know, they have to envision. That's why whoever's around me, like, you know, this guy over here and my main video guy, they all have integrity. It's not that they're good at their job. It's because they're all like, they see the vision, you know, we're all kind to each other. We do stuff for each other without even asking. That's the kind of culture that you want. And so anyway, taking it back to John Wood, that's what he was telling me. As soon as he read this book, he was reading this book, he told me, and then as soon as he started putting the pieces in place and all that, and it just changed the whole game for him. So kudos to John. I know he's a world-class coach, but it's also the pieces around him that make him him, you know, which I thought was a beautiful way to put it.
And one of the most impressive stats on him is, you know, when we were talking is I think he's got like 10 guys or 12 guys who had never fought before that he, you know, helped coach to the UFC, which is incredible. Like Jordan Levitt's one of them. Yeah. Khalil Roundtree's one of them. Like, just, you know, it's a testament of how good of a coach the guy really is.
I mean, like, exactly.
It's a testament, man. The guy, he knows the game better than anybody I've ever spoken to. And that's a testament. I've been around some of the great minds in the sport.
It also, not just like, you know, obviously this is the obvious that we talked about. He's a world-class coach, but then it's also building relationships.
Yeah,
right?
you know,
that's a big part of it, right?
See, he's got, like, he brings the team to his house for barbecues and stuff like that. I see it on Instagram all the time. So, you know, he's friendly with his guys and his girls in the gym. You know, he's friendly with his team, which is how it should be. You know, it's like I played baseball, basketball my whole life. You know, you always had, you know, you went in the pool after practice or after games. You know, you had barbecues, team barbecues and stuff like that. Every once in a while, you need that. You need a little camaraderie. You need everybody on the same page. Like, they play pickleball and stuff like that, you know. Go do stuff with your team. Go compete in other stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was that for sure. You need to build those relationships. Yeah. But it's also like the business relationships, right? It, like, you can't, I'm a big believer, and this is well known, but then you can't get anywhere without the right people in place, because you have to fill that void with expertise, right? With what you lack. So he seemed to have done that. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost saying, of course, kudos to John, but then what if, like, say Jerry and Shane, you know what I mean? Didn't run that. It'd be a different fucking program.
When I say he's built a stable, he's built a stable outside of just the fighters. Like, his coaching, like, without Max, I would not be improving the way I'm improving since I got to Vegas. You know, without Jerry and his brother Shane, jiu-jitsu over there wouldn't be as potent as it is, obviously, you know? Without the wrestling guys, the brothers, without ATC, you know, everybody plays a hand. Even without, you know, without Emily at the front desk and, you know, Taylor at the front desk, you know, like, they make you feel welcome the second you walk in.
Culture.
Emily's running around that spot all day long, you know? Like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, there is support on all levels over there at Syndicate.
Absolutely.
From bottom to top, from the second you walk in to the second you leave. It's like, you know, the janitor in school, you know, everybody would pay, you know, respect to. It's the same way there. There's not a person in that building I wouldn't want to pay respects to, because they pay respects to me.
In just the 6 years that I've been going, there's just a big change, you know, in culture. Like, you could tell that John adjusted it to the way that he wanted it to be. And now here it is. It's probably, I mean, I don't have the statistics, but it's probably one of the biggest jiu-jitsu programs now. There's like 100 people on the mats literally at night.
I mean, and
like literally.
Listen, obviously I got my start in the MMA space as like a reporter / media guy / interviewer. You know, I still have really good relationships with all those guys, you know, in these big outlets. And, you know, they always ask me, you know, where's the spot in Vegas right now? What's going on over there in Vegas right now? Like, what do you like about Vegas? What gym, you know? I love Syndicate. I'm never going to say anything negative or bad about Syndicate, you know? You'll see me as a pro Syndicate guy and, you know, for as long as I could imagine right now. And I love the PI. The Performance Institute is amazing. It's like a daycare over there.
Right, and it really
is. It's insane. It's a college
really
university. I don't get it. I don't get why it's
top
so big, but it's top of the line. It's incredible over there. And I got a free pass there every day. I love it there.
Yeah. Perfect, man. So, you know, before we end this podcast, man, look, I guess let's go into more of like the content creator space.
Sure.
You know what I mean? What advice would you give? Because for me, how I see you is that you're creating your brand.
Yeah.
And I know that's like a buzzword nowadays, you know, personal brand, but, you know, you've grown to 40,000 followers. You're making a name for yourself in the commentary space. And also you want to fight and doing all these things, which I think is fucking awesome, by the way. Congratulations to you. And I mean that in the most way because,
I appreciate that. A lot of people have opinions, you know?
Brother, we all train, man.
For sure.
We're all here just fucking, you know, like half of us don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're just doing shit.
Right?
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, why are you going to judge someone for that? But anyway, what tips would you have to get them, you know, kind of like into your space, commentating? Maybe they want to build a following. What's your biggest advice since you have built that following?
So I'll be a little cliche. I'll go off, you know, New York and me is this. I'm gonna get some shit for this.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
The Godfather, great films.
I
great
love
trilogy.
that. Number 2 was my favorite, by the way.
So you're gonna like this one then. Number 2 is your favorite. When it feels scary, that's when it's time to jump.
There
you know,
go.
Take the risk. Always take the risk. Do stuff that you're uncomfortable doing. I spent years covering my friends in college baseball, college football, who were D1 athletes, and promoting them, writing articles on them. You know, traveling around, seeing their games. And all my friends would make fun of me. Oh, all you're doing is this, that. You're trying to latch onto them, this, that. Now we fast forward, you know, 10 years later. Oh, I love what you're doing. You know, this is so cool. You're the man, this, that. You know, but, you know, it wasn't cool when I was doing this, this, and this. I was just trying to, you know, cater to my friends. But, you know, now it's like, holy shit, this kid stuck through it and he did it. Yep. So all I could say is, you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has them.
I love it.
It is what it is, you know. Stop caring about what people think. I still suffer from it.
Everyone.
Not that it's like a disease or anything, but I still have issues with it. You know, I read comments. You know, it's a part of it. It's human. It's human nature. You know, but just stop caring what people think and just go for it. You know, and I still struggle with that a little bit right now. I'm being a little hypocritical because, dude, I was stuck on 35,000 followers for about a year. I just broke through for another 5.
Very nice.
So you know, I have to do a better job myself of putting more content out and you know, covering more stuff. But you know, the best advice I can give you is, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's me versus me. It's you versus you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you're putting out your content, all it takes is one. All it takes is one video. I had one video go up and Drake, the rapper, put it on his story. And I gained like 5,000 followers that night.
Love it.
You know, all it takes is one post to get 1 million views. I have a bunch of posts that have 1 million views.
Yeah.
I didn't start with 1 million followers. You know what I mean? I didn't start with all these followers. So just take the risk. That's all I can really say is, you know, jump in. When it gets scary, dive on in. Who cares what other people think? You know, it's too important now, social media in the world, to not get in because there's so much money to be made. And I'm not even really accessing the money I should be making. You know what I mean? I'm not even using my social media for money and stuff like that. But now, you know, getting back from Baku, getting back to America, I'm taking a look at all these different sponsorships and all these different creator stuff. And, you know, I'm going to start being uncomfortable. So this is not me being hypocritical, you know, because I'm going to start being uncomfortable and doing stuff that I'm probably going to get made fun of for, but it's a part of the game. Yeah, you know, it's a part of it. Just take the risk. You know, you especially, man, take the risk. You're doing a lot of cool shit. You're doing a lot of cool interviews, and I'd love to see you do even more, you know, because I know it's in there. Man. Like, we should do some content. We should go do some training in the gym. We should, you know, break down something, you know, spar a little bit. You know, you could tune me up, you know, do what you got to do, bro. You know,
I get it.
But take the risk, man. You especially, because you're doing some really cool stuff.
Thank you, man.
I'd
I
love to
appreciate
see you
you.
keep rising, because you're going to be in that same ballpark of followers as I am, and you're probably going to be a lot cooler than I am when you get there. So just keep going. And anyone who's listening, man, just keep going.
Absolutely, man. You know, the thing is that it's crabs in a bucket, right?
Yeah.
With your friends, they're trying to pull you down, pull you down because they're uncomfortable with that. They've never tried it. Yeah. And you know what's funny with that, with the Mr. Beast thing? It's the same thing that he said. He was like, yeah, at first when I started making YouTube videos, and for those people that don't know Mr. Beast, he's the biggest YouTuber there. His friends were telling him, oh, you're too obsessed, YouTube, are you a kid? And then when he got like fucking 500 million subscribers now he was saying, oh, dude, the tenacity that you have, the fucking, you know, the will that you have to get through it. It's a different conversation now, isn't it?
I posted a couple weeks ago. It's a picture, and it's like 2 roads, and it says the applause, the support. And there's like one guy on the support, and then the applause is a whole stadium full of people.
I've seen that meme.
You know, it's just how it is. But at the end of the day, it's you versus you. Don't care about what people think. And at the end of the day, I mean, if what you're doing, if you're doing something over and over and over, and you're getting the same type of comments, maybe change something up.
Right.
You know, don't, you know, be open. You know what I'm saying? So be open to criticism and constructive criticism. There's a difference between hate and people trying to help you. Yeah. So do not necessarily, you know,
like feedback.
Feedback is real, man. Feedback is real. You know, some people troll, some people hate, but the feedback is real, man. So be open to it and just use it, man. I got notifications on my phone 3 times a day to be posted on Instagram. Yeah. I don't do that anymore. I'm slacking. But when I came up, 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 7 p.m., that range, I had to get 3 posts out. Just have consistency. That's the only thing you could do, man.
Yeah, perfect, man. I think that's a good place to land, and that was great advice, man. And I appreciate you for coming on. Thank you for your time, man.
I appreciate you having me, man. It's an honor to be doing stuff like this. You know, from where I come from,
vice versa, man.
I come from New York City, man. That's the you know, the mecca of media. Yeah. So you know, to be doing this stuff years later, after you know, having my radio debut at 19, you know, it's honestly, it's a long time coming, and it's wholesome. And it's something I love to do, man. So I'm happy to come back on it anytime you want me to. Absolutely. Happy to do some content with you. I'm happy to go to the gym, do whatever you want to do. We'll get something done, man. And hopefully I can get you Nas on here.
Let's go. Yeah, for sure, man. I'd love to talk to him for sure. But yeah, thank you again, man.
Of course, bro. Thank you.
Let's go.